Expand your mind and enrich your world. It's time for another outstanding podcast from ICRT.
Hello and welcome to another podcast edition of Taiwan Talk. I'm Keith Manconi. Board games are enjoying something of a boom in popularity in Taiwan, and venues to play these games seem to be popping up everywhere. The LA Times reports that in just the last 5 years, about 50 game cafes have opened in the Taipei area, with another 50 opening elsewhere around the island. Today in the show, we're talking to a company that's had a hand in this growth. For more than 10 years, Swan Panasia has been bringing foreign board games to Taiwan and Taiwanese games to the world. But as we're about to hear, when you're working with board games, there's more to it than your standard import-export business. To tell us exactly what that is and what's behind the growth of the industry as a whole, I made a trip to the company's warehouse in Xindian to speak to one of its co-founders, German expat Johannes Goeth. Here's our conversation. Johannes Goeth, thanks so much for speaking with me today.
Well, it's the honors on my side.
So the kind of games that we're talking about, maybe not everybody would be familiar with. Most people know about Monopoly or Stratego, something like that. Can you give us some kind of a sense? A lot of these games are from Europe. A lot of these games are from America. Give us a sense of what kind of games we're talking about here.
What kind of games? Well, there are reaction games, there are memory games, there are tile-laying games, there are strategic games, there are just stupid games, any kind of games you can play on the table or even without table, with cards or without cards.
Right, so that's a little bit of everything, something for everybody. And you started this company more than 10 years ago. And when you started, there was really no market at all in Taiwan for this kind of game. Is that right? I mean, what were you seeing here when you first started?
I was seeing that there were some games being used as teaching material for children or for kindergartens. But there were some traditional games like Go or Mahjong, but there were no new-styled games with beautiful illustrations, with nice art design and with different themes to play. And so I was thinking Taiwan was lacking something, and I was remembering when I was a child we played so many different games and it was so much fun. I was thinking that there would be probably a big market for these games in Taiwan.
And so over the last 10 years, I guess you were right, because, I mean, it really has become a lot more popular. There's more and more game shops every year. I think what's interesting about Taiwan is, in the U.S., maybe you would go to a friend's house to play games, or maybe even to, some game stores would host game days. But in Taiwan, you actually have coffee shops that are specifically there to give you a place to play games, to rent games. You don't even need to own games yourself, and you can still be a gamer in Taiwan. So how has this kind of market developed? How did that come about?
Yes, that was a good point. You say in the US you would go to a friend's house, but this is nearly impossible in Taiwan because the students here are living at so small apartments that there won't be space for a gaming table. Maybe now it has changed, but 10 years ago students were quite limited in their space. So they will meet outside. They will look for the so-called third space to meet with friends, normally for eating or just chatting. But later they added the gaming, and this was quite important, that gaming become part of their life after university or became part of families, mothers playing with their children. And at the other hand, there were people who recognized this need of these peoples, of students and of families, and they started to run game coffee shops. And I think this was one of the most important reasons, that there were people who were into the games, they were interested in the games, not as a business, but as their life fulfillment, and they opened game coffee shops. If there were only businessmen, they probably would have stopped this after 3 months, because turnover is quite slow. But there were no businessmen. There were gamers who wanted to do this as their life fulfillment. And the number of coffee shops doubled every year. It started with 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. And we have, I think, 120 game stores all over Taiwan now. Maybe even more.
And so you were talking a second ago about how, some of the early adopters of games. Do you think that these coffee shops have helped expose people to new games that maybe they wouldn't have been willing to try without the coffee shops?
Yes, exactly. That's the point. If there were only some gaming areas in department stores, it would not have developed into what it is today. We have watched big toy companies developing their game market in Taiwan, and I dare to say that there was no development at all.
So when you started your company, I mean, you were one of the first companies in Taiwan to really have a wide selection of games and make it widely available. We were talking before the interview, and you told me that one of the first ways that you kind of introduced these games was to make them available in your coffee shop. Your wife has a coffee shop, and you made some of these games available in your coffee shop. So tell me about that. Was that successful right from the start? Did that catch on?
At that time, it was successful because we did not expect any business at the beginning, and still there were people playing. This was a success, and also buying sometimes, maybe once a week. And later, we tried to make it more public by participating at trade fairs. So probably no one would have thought that games could appear at the Taipei International Book Exhibition, but we were the first to go there. And after that, so many people came to our coffee shop because they did not expect the games to be at the book fair. And then they played, and they were fascinated. They were addicted, and they wanted to have more. And they came to our coffee shop and played and bought even more games.
So outside of these trade fairs, I get the impression that a lot of what you were focusing on is working with these coffee shops and helping them grow. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes. One day, someone who was running a normal coffee shop came up and said, it's so boring in my coffee shop. I want to add something. I want to not to sell just coffee for the rest of my life. And then we played Carcassonne, and he was fascinated. And later he created a company called Carcar City, because Carcassonne was his first game. And now he has, I think, 8 stores in Taipei, and probably wants to open some other stores at other cities in Taiwan. Later, other people saw this, and some of them also wanted to do a game coffee shop. Others wanted to open a game store without serving food or drinks. Others opened game classes for children during the week or at the weekend or during vacation. Others opened internet stores for selling games. So there are all kind of selling mechanisms came one year after the other.
A lot of people have, made import-export kind of businesses in Taiwan. Would you say that there's something different about running an import-export business that focuses specifically on games? Are there different set of challenges or different set of, tasks that you need to take on?
I would say most businessmen won't do this because the turnover is too slow. You order the games, it takes several weeks for them to arrive, then it takes several weeks to promote them. You must explain the product to the consumers. If you sell food, you won't need to explain it, or furniture, or cars. Cars. Some cars need to be explained. But normally, people know what they want to buy before you explain it to them, if they buy a car or furniture. If you buy a game, you want to play it. To play one game normally takes 30 minutes, 1 hour, and maybe they want to play it once more. And so, to explain one game to one family needs 1 hour. To explain it to 100 family takes 100 hours. No businessman is so crazy to invest in such an time-investing business. Now, as more and more people are playing games, it starts to be a business after 12 years, which is a very long time to start up a business, a company.
And I think that so maybe part of the story of why this has gotten so successful is because the game shops, can make those relationships with new players, and you have somebody there who can explain the new games to you, and so that's part of how Taiwan has gotten to know these games a little bit better. Do you think that's right?
Yes, that's correct. Without the help of all these game hosts in all these game stores, the market wouldn't have grown so fast. And well, fast is a relative, or it would be different. Maybe only some game titles would be available now. So we try, and we always try to be very friendly to all these retailers. Actually, at the beginning of all this, we had to finance them. They had no money. They just had their interest into this hobby, and they wanted to make it into their profession. But they told us we have no money to buy so many games. So we just put our warehouse stuff into their stores. They had something to show to the people. They had something to sell to the people. And for the first 5 years, it was okay. But then the pressure for us was too big because there were more and more game stores. It was okay for us to financially support about 16 game stores or 20 in the first 5 years. But then the number doubled and doubled.
So when you import these games, I know that at first a lot of the games were just in the original language, either English or German, but now you're actually working to publish them in Chinese. Is that right?
That's correct. Simplified Chinese, traditional Chinese, and last year we even started to publish in Thai and in English for some Southeast Asian countries.
And, you know, the way that people write instructions for a game, that's a very specific way to write. Would you say that there's any special challenges for these translators to make this work that maybe translators of other things wouldn't have?
Well, there are probably at least two types of translators. The gamers, they translate very short. They just need to have the basic information. And then maybe people who studied literature and translate it very correctly, but no one understands. So we still need my wife to connect both of them.
So it's a matter of having that balance between explaining the rules, but also giving some flavor, making it interesting.
Right, yes. You must translate all the rules. There's a must, but still it must read fluently, and it must be interesting enough for people to read. Well, actually not, because most people won't read the rules. They just want you to add the rules in Chinese to the game. But as far as I know, maybe only 10% of customers will read the rules because they go to the game stores to have the game explained.
And another thing that your business has been working on over the last couple of years is helping Taiwanese game designers publish their games and find the market abroad, ship their games abroad. Would you say that there's more and more board game designers in Taiwan? Has that been something that's been gaining in popularity?
Yes, that's correct. Similar to the coffee shops, game coffee shops, the number of board game designers in Taiwan is doubling every year.
Do you notice anything distinctive about the games that are coming out of Taiwan? Do they have a different feel from games that are coming out of other countries?
There are some games using animation illustrations or...
Like anime?
Like anime. Or some political themes, and they will have these caricatures of politicians in Taiwan on the game box, on the cards, and these are, of course, very Taiwan distinctive, and they won't work at other countries because it's too special. But the game system of the games might work with other political parties in other countries of the world.
Oh, so you could just stick President Obama on it and the game itself will still work.
So that's what we have to do then. So we must find out which of these games from Taiwanese designers might fit to which other market in which country of the world. And we also must find the right publisher. There are maybe 100 or more publishers in Germany and probably also 100 or more publishers in the States, and all of them have different portfolios. So right now I know very well who wants to publish what, and I can tell the designers directly, I will take this game to that publisher and hope that he will like it or not. Besides that, we also try to be present at different trade shows all over the world. So we go to Japan 3 times a year to local board game markets. We go to Korea 1 or 2 times a year. We go to Hong Kong Book Fair, book exhibition. We are in China at some local gamers conventions. We are also at Germany at the world's biggest game convention in October in Essen. We also have been to the States, Gen Con and Origins, but it's very hard to get into the US market.
So you were telling me that in Taiwan, there's a little bit more of a focus on dark humor. What do you mean by that? How does dark humor enter into a game?
For example, there's this game of always overtime working.
Okay, so you're showing me a game right now it's about working. That's a pretty unusual theme for a game.
Yeah, it's about unhealthy working. Taiwanese people tend to do overwork time, no matter how effective it is. And this game is about this. Yes, you get a job, a duty, and you have to do it. If you work overnight, you can do it faster, but your liver will get a damage point. And if you have 10 damage points, you need an operation. So you need to take a rest. But later you can resume work again.
It's a very Taiwanese joke.
Yeah, very Taiwanese joke, and that's what I thought was black humor too. There's another game which is criticizing the producers of food. I don't know if you have heard about the scandals in China and in Taiwan, and this other game is about these scandals. You try to make food and mix in some things which should not be in there, and you hope that you won't be caught by the inspectors. Yes. So that's also politically incorrect, but still funny to play.
Very topical humor in Taiwan. So as you look at these gaming coffee shops in Taiwan, do you think that this is a phenomenon that's around to stay, or do you think that as people get more used to the idea of games, they might think, okay, I can just do this at my home, I don't necessarily need these coffee shops anymore?
Both. So they will continue to stay, and people also will buy more and more games and take them at their homes. And another important development probably will be the mass market. Right now we have been addressed by hypermarkets or by 7-Eleven or Family Mart, and this will probably be the next step of marketing games via these bigger distribution channels, but not all kind of games, probably only the simple games for the mass market.
We've been speaking to Johannes Goeth. Johannes, thank you so much for speaking with us today.
Thank you.
To learn more about Swan Panasia, check them out at the website swanpanasia.com. That's our show for today. As always, we'd love to hear what you thought of the program. You can leave us a comment on our Facebook page or rate and review Taiwan Talk on iTunes. You can also leave a comment on the ICRT blog, where we've posted some links to articles about games in Taiwan. Thanks for listening. For ICRT, I'm Keith Manconi.